So TF2 wrenches always seem like a bit of a strange case to me. On one hand there's lots of them, and on the other hand there's not lots of them. Yeah, I'm not doing that for the whole video. Look, you saw the thumbnail, the stock wrench is bad, let's go over why. So the stock wrench, or the default wrench as it's sometimes referred to as, is a very underpowered weapon, and for a very simple reason. The side grades, or the other unlockable wrenches you can obtain, are just simply way better. The stock wrench debate is very similar to the quick fix debate, one of my most successful videos on the channel. However, I'm going to name this effect the Uber effect, as there are a lot of weapons like this, and I intend to make more videos on them. The Uber effect refers to a side grade unlockable, the Uber saw, being way better than the stock weapon, the bone saw, in practically every scenario. This is the problem the wrench suffers from, and it suffers from it hard. So, to gain a better understanding of the wrench, let's go over its stats first. Well, there aren't any. The wrench is the engineer's default equipable melee weapon. One swing onto an enemy deals 65 damage, and its core mechanic is that you can hit your buildings with it to upgrade them or heal them. This default healing and upgrading mechanic is a stat that all wrenches possess. Being quite a specialised class, most all-class melee weapons do not work on the engineer just like they don't with Spy. There are of course a couple exceptions to this, but I don't care. So, repeating myself, the stock wrench is bad purely because it's outclassed by every other melee in practically every other scenario. So I think it's best we go over the other melees, talk about what scenarios they win at, which ones they don't win at, and why I think they're better than the stock wrench. Starting with a personal favourite of mine, purely on visual design alone, the Southern Hospitality on hit deals bleed damage for up to 5 seconds. This is of course reduced to 2.5 seconds on cloaking spies. This wrench encompasses the pitiful downside of 20% more fire damage taken. The reason why the Southern Hospitality is better than the stock wrench is because if you're lurking by your sentry, like a defensive engineer should, you will never encounter a pyro. Flame demons are weak to sentry guns, that's just their natural matchup. The pyro's lack of range and real hit scan potential mean that he falls victim to sentry guns just like scouts do. Now, I should make this clear, the Southern Hospitality is a straight upgrade to stock on defense, not so much on offense. On offense, you have to attack through the enemy's space to capture the goal and win the game. Therefore, on offense, you would most likely not have your sentry gun to rely on. This is because, as we all know, sentries do not have legs, and they cannot keep up with the engineer. So if your engineer were to push the cart on a payload map, for example, he'd much more likely be encountering pyros than he would his own sentry gun. Therefore, on offense, I think the Southern Hospitality can be a downgrade. However, this is manufacturing that you don't play offensive-defensive. If you were to use the Southern Hospitality on offense and lock down a defensive spot that's progressive for your team with teleporters and sentries, then you still wouldn't be encountering pyros, and therefore it would still be a direct upgrade for dealing with spies. So, on defense, the engineer's core role as a defense class, the Southern Hospitality is a straight upgrade. And on offensive maps, like payload maps, when you're on the blue team, I also consider it a straight upgrade then, as long as you're playing offensive-defensive. The next wrench we should talk about, the Jag. Oh boy. The Jag is by far the most popular wrench and widely considered the best. The Jag takes a much more complex approach to stats, featuring a construction speed boost by up to 30% and a 15% faster swing speed. The downsides to this is that it heals 20% less for every hit dealt, deals 25% less damage to players, and 33% less damage versus buildings. That last stat also encompasses a 3-hit regulation for sappers. You see, every wrench in TF2, except for the Jag, takes 2 hits to destroy an electro sapper placed by a cheeky spy, but the Jag takes up to 3. This means that your buildings take significantly more damage than they would if you were to have, say, a normal wrench equipped. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the construction speed first. This is widely considered why the Jag is the offense wrench. Increasing your building's level up time by up to a third of what it would normally be is incredible. You sit there smacking that sentry, it gets up so much quicker than it would normally. This allows you to carry level 3s further into enemy territory, or my favourite way to play, carry level 2s much safely. That massive speed boost makes the level 2 an incredibly offensive weapon, more so than it does a defensive. And also the 15% swing speed bonus. It's good. It's very good. This is the speed wrench, and that's again why it's best for offense. On offense, the NG doesn't have the reliability of his team to fall back on as much as the defensive side does. That's because his team will constantly be mobile compared to the defensive team, which will usually be sedentary. So, how does the Jag play on defense? Just as well. That speed bonus is universal, it doesn't matter what team you're on. And while having a construction speed and swing speed bonus is massively beneficial on offense, it's still very beneficial on defense, but just nowhere near as much. Now we get to the downsides. A 20% lower repair rate is probably the biggest one. Upon hitting your building, the Jag will only heal 80 health back to it. This still consumes the 25 metal. This is of course in comparison to every other wrench, taking 25 metal in order to heal 100 health. This may or may not seem like a major downside for the Jag, but let's put it into perspective. Let's say your sentry were to have just 1 health. The maxed health the sentry can have is 216, so 3 swings of the stock wrench would deal 300 health to it and therefore heal it up to full. But the Jag, with its roughly 80 health per swing, would still only take 3 swings to get the building up to full health. The only difference being, the Jag wouldn't be healing the 300, it would only be healing 240. So that 15% faster swing speed is just so beneficial to the weapon that it comes so close to cancelling out that first negative stat. So the second stat, 25% damage penalty. This only really comes into play with spies, as a spy is much faster than you and can always try to whip around you to try to get that sneaky stab. Coming into melee contact range with a spy is very common, and therefore you're going to need a good damage backup source for when you do. And this 25% damage penalty, it's not massive, but instead you take 3 swings to kill the spy instead of the regular 2. Now the 33% damage penalty versus buildings, don't worry about it. But the 3-hit Sapphire Swing combo you should definitely worry about. I've gone over this earlier, but it is genuinely a really bad thing. I've been a Jag fan for the longest time, but honestly I'm actually starting to switch to the Southern Hospitality on more occasions, purely because of this negative. So, I've made it sound really bad, but how does the Jag compare to the stock wrench? It's still better. The Jag is by far the best offensive wrench. It is still incredibly good on defense, but just like with the Southern Hospitality in reverse, its offensive capabilities way outweigh the benefits you get on defense. If you're playing engineer on offense, first of all good luck. Second, you don't have the luxury to be sedentary and rely on your team as much. You have to constantly be moving that gear up, and in doing so you need to be able to build quickly. This is why the Jag is so good on offense. So I feel this section has gone a little bit longer than I intended it to, so let's move on to the next one. The Gunslinger is one of those unlocks that's just purely cool. While equipping the Gunslinger, your health goes up from 125 to 150. This can make you survive many more things, including 2 hits from a Demo Knight, which, if you're using the Gunslinger, you're more likely to encounter than if you're using any other wrench. The Gunslinger also has a cool, but rather useless upside, of each 3rd consecutive melee hit dealing a critical hit. Since the majority of these classes in this game have 125 health, dealing 2 melee hits to them will likely kill them. The only real use you're going to see out of this is either dealing with medics or dealing with pyros, as soldiers and demo men will either be jumping away or blasting you to death, and if you're an engineer, you're not going to win a head-on duel with a heavy. Now the most interesting downside to ever exist of all interesting downsides, the building of mini sentries. This, honestly, is not a downside, it is a side grade. Mini sentries are such a fantastic tool, especially on offense, for locking down an area. And since they're disposable, you don't need to hang around them, you don't need to worry about them, you don't need to feed them like you would your normal sentries. You just pop that mini down and you have so much more freedom. The Gunslinger is the wrench? Is it wrench? No. It is the melee weapon of choice for the offensive entry, or more categorically speaking, the battle entry. Tiny Texan man running around with the 150 health and a massive dealing damage shotgun is much more powerful than you'd think. So, why is the Gunslinger better than the stock wrench? On defense, yes, the Gunslinger is subjectively worse than the stock wrench. But that's not what it was designed to do. The stock wrench was designed to be a jack of all, master of none, but the Gunslinger was designed to be a fantastic offensive unit. The Gunslinger excels more in fantastic offense than the stock wrench does in jack of all. And that's why I personally put it above the stock wrench. Now, the Eureka effect is weird. When using it, half the time, I completely forget I can teleport to spawn, its main design mechanic. The Eureka effect comes with the unique and incredibly helpful ability to press the reload key and either teleport to your spawn or teleport to your teleporter exit. This essentially gives the engineer access to an infinite health and ammo depository. The Eureka effect also has a very nice little bonus, just a slight add-on, 50% metal decrease cost when constructing or upgrading teleporters. This means your teleporters are way cheaper to upgrade, way cheaper to build. It's a nice change of life quality, but it's not the core purpose of using this wrench. A good sneaky engineer using this weapon can be a menace to the enemy team. The negatives of this wrench are that the construction speed boost is the construction speed boost you get by hitting your sentry and upgrading it faster is decreased by half, and you obtain 20% less metal from pickups and dispensers. So let's say you were to pick up a medium ammo kit. This would normally restore 100 metal to you, but in this case it would only restore 80. This isn't awfully noticeable on dispensers, as not many players have a keen eye for how much metal they do gain from the average dispenser. However, this is incredibly noticeable on ammo packs. But of course, the main draw of this weapon, getting behind your enemy, teleporting back to spawn for an infinite ammo and health supply, teleporting behind the enemy to use their ammo supply, it's great, it's fun, it is fun. If this wrench could build mini sentries, I think it'd be the best wrench in the entire game. Because its design philosophy incredibly hinders the idea of building level 3s. Because with the level 3 sentry, you're meant to stick around it, bottle feed it, all that kind of stuff. But with this weapon, you don't do that. You're constantly flying all over the battlement. Oh, I love this wrench. Anyway, so, why I think this wrench is still a direct upgrade to the stock. 1. Infinite health and infinite ammo with the resupply cabinet. 2. Teleporting to your exit is much more useful than you'd ever think. And 3. The downside of getting 20% less metal from all resources is completely negated when you can either go back to spawn, get an infinite amount, or go behind the enemy lines and use their amount. So, now we've looked at all the other wrenches, we've gone over why I think they're direct upgrades from the stock. So, what do I really think about the stock? I honestly think the stock wrench is okay. It is nowhere near bad, it's not Pompson levels of bad. But it's just outclassed, like I said earlier, the Uber effect. If the Vitasaur and the Ubersaur didn't exist, the Bonesaw would not be a bad weapon. But it's only because that direct upgrades exist that it is considered bad. So if we were to buff the stock wrench or alter it in any way, what could we possibly do? Well, if it's designed to be a jack of all traits kind of wrench, then why don't we buff all the traits? If you dealt, say, 110 health per swing, swung 5% faster, boost construction speed by up to 10%, and I do think we should also give it the ability to, well, essentially copy and paste the Eureka effect stats about teleporters, pop that onto the default wrench. Teleporters are small buildings. The reason why newer engineers tend to not build them is because they're expensive to upgrade. They cost the same amount as a dispenser, which can give you infinite ammo, or a sentry, which can get you infinite kills. So, what would this new wrench we've created look like? Well, it will be slightly better at everything the stock wrench was designed to do. I don't think it would outclass any of them. Or, my second idea for rebalancing this weapon, forget everything I just said, and give the stock wrench the ability to build two-way teleporters. If it were the only wrench in the game to be able to do this, that would give it a massive reason to use it. This change is also a good idea as it wouldn't involve nerfing any of the other wrenches. For example, giving the Eureka effect teleportability to the normal wrench would completely and utterly nerf the Eureka effect. I personally prefer this idea more, but yeah, that's been my opinion on all the wrenches and why I think they're better than stock. Thanks for watching this. Sorry it's gone on for quite a bit. What are we at now? 12 minutes or something like that? Like with always, I covered every point I wanted to, and that's just how long the video came out. If you're only interested in TF2 and the wrench debate, then you can click off now. The rest of this video will just be me talking about channel updates or whatever it might be. I've said it before, I'll say it again, this channel is not monetized. You have to reach 1,000 subs and a bunch of other small conditions to get so there is no benefit to me making videos over 10 minutes long. I just cover all the points I want to make, and that's just how long it ends up. This video was my quickest to record, quickest to dub over, and by far my longest to add the visuals for. There might not have been a lot of little bits popping up on screen or analytics or anything like that, but trust me, they took hours. I'm quite finicky about what fonts I have to use and how everything has to be just perfect and all that, and it ends up costing me. So any and all support I could receive from anyone from this video would be greatly appreciated. I really do believe the stock wrench is outclassed in almost every other scenario, and it's not just your average kind of clickbaity thing. In other news, what video am I making next? Not sure. The sniper video should be going up today as of I'm recording this, and this one will be going up next, almost immediately after. I'm actually expecting the sniper video to underperform, but because a couple people have requested it, I've pushed it out early. This video, however, I think it will do very well. So I don't want to have too much of a gap between an underperforming video and this one, just in case the YouTube algorithm completely gives up on me. While I was doing the demo for this, I did my first ever community post on YouTube, which I have detailed my new timeline of events for the videos. It might sound like I obsess a lot over timelines, but if I'm going to take this YouTube business moderately to... I still can't speak. If I'm going to take this whole YouTube thing semi to moderately to very seriously, then I need to let the viewers know what's coming next. I don't deem it personally acceptable to post a video, take a gap for 3 months, and then post another one, and then start regularly uploading again. If you have an audience, you are dedicated to them, you have a responsibility. And therefore, I should be responsible for letting you know what I'm currently working on and what you can expect to see next. Anyway, as I've recorded this, I released the 100 subscriber thank you video earlier. Now we're at 106, and I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you very much. Alright, well, please debate in the comments. I love reading those, and I love responding as well. I genuinely appreciate any and all feedback as you have on maybe the video, the points I've made up, my editing, literally anything. Let me know. Okay, well, that's it for now. Next video will be coming soon. I haven't started working on it. I'll start working on it immediately after this. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll see you later down the sunny road. Goodbye.